Osborne Elementary.
Where they come up with some crap that they come up with. No idea.
I know, it's so funny.
And the words, I mean, they're using words this big, you know, do you really know what that means? Oh, yeah, Pap.
They do.
Well, those are good ones.
Yeah.
No, it's just me. Just you, that's all right. Yeah. How's the wife? She's doing good. Good. She retired 6 months after I did. When did you retire? When did you go? The day I fell. Oh, gee.
Oh, wow.
Again, so.
Oh,
I know
boy.
it's
Let me
it's
see.
not gonna happen, so.
She is third.
I was semi-retired before that. Okay, so you didn't volunteer retire?
8 or 9, I
No,
think.
I fell off the ladder.
6.
Oh, man. Coming down a step, of all things, a step
You're
ladder.
blessed.
I thought I was on the
That's so
bottom
awesome.
rung.
Only thing
Yeah,
is,
oh, yeah. I was on the next ladder.
this one
And then
is
I reached back. I
and
put
that
the
one
ladder
are in
off.
Wisconsin,
Oh.
right outside of
So
Madison.
they're siblings. Yes, you have.
Yeah.
The other two are here.
Calling 911, being put on hold. Oh, gee, really? Yeah. Oh,
Well,
that's helpful. Yeah.
thank you for
I don't
offering
go to a county
your
hearing
borough
and say,
building for
okay,
the
are you
COG
planning to
meetings.
fix it? I know they're short-handed over time. I've heard horror stories
It
like
just
that
is
place,
there,
but
so.
actually we put on hold. Yeah. We were on hold for.
yeah,
5
I was
minutes.
wondering, Patrick, I haven't been here for a couple
I've
of
heard
months,
so many
like
people call
what
911 for
prompted
three
you
different
to
emergencies, and that's
pick
just been.
So one of the meetings we were locked out,
Oh, yeah, I wouldn't do that.
and then the other on the internet was spotty, so people that were on Zoom really weren't a part.
About what? I don't understand.
Well, it was really Barbara that started the conversation. I agreed.
But you know you're supposed to eat with it before.
That's got the best setup. Speed.
So is that where we're going?
No, half and half. So if the first 6 months of the year will be the library, then the next 6 months will be Leedsdale. I didn't want to like push my luck and ask for a year for either or. I figured that's a nice compromise. We'll see how it goes. If everyone likes it, then we'll keep it that way. Or continuity. That's what we ultimately did with the managers. Like I tried the same thing where we bounced around. Then we just said, okay, you guys are working at 10 o'clock. You're coming out of your way, so let's pick one spot. It's been an 11 ever since. Let's go. Yes, Steve. So I'm expecting both John and Barbara to come, but I don't. So we're at 7 right now. So we need one more for a quorum, but so we don't keep everyone waiting. I'm gonna let Peter do his presentation now because there's no voter or action on that. It's just inform, you know.
Want to do that before calling the meeting?
Yeah. That way that we can have a quorum.
Okay.
And looks like John just entered. So actually we have everything I said.
All right, so you want to start?
Yep.
Okay. All right, it's 7 o'clock. We'll call to order the Quaker Valley Council of Governments Board of Delegates regular meeting for Wednesday, September 20th, 2023. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, and roll call.
Aleppo, Avalon, Bell Acres, Bellevue, Ben Evan,
Here.
Edgeworth,
Here.
Epworth, Glen Osborne, Glenfield, Hayesville,
Here.
Gilbuck, Leet, Leetsdale, Sewickley, Sewickley Heights.
Here.
The public here tonight, so we can move on to well, Peter's not our guest. We're gonna go down farther for Peter. Okay. So next we'll move to approval of the August 16th, 2023 meeting minutes. And I would take a motion for that approval.
Second,
Okay, any questions, changes, discussion? All right, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And I would abstain since I was not present for the whole meeting. Okay, moving on to item number 6, approval of the August financial reports, unpaid bills list, and payroll summary. Patrick, would you like to just go over it?
Sure. Business as usual on that front. I think, as you'll see, our bank statements were in really great shape for both our savings account and general fund. Nothing unusual in the unpaid bills and payroll, same as usual. Questions will be happy to answer them.
You have better luck with the county paying the CB monies up or?
We're all caught up on that for our end. Now, the contractor's different end on that. That's a totally different answer for the contractors. We have one outstanding payment for a contractor that's just been dragging on forever. But for our bank accounts and our records.
Okay, so could I get a motion for the approval of the financial reports, unpaid bills list, and payroll summary?
So. Second.
Any questions or comments? All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? Okay, motion passes. Item number 7 is the president's report.
We'll just skip that. for now.
Yeah, Barbara is not here right now, so we'll skip that and move on to number 8, the Route 65 update.
Perfect. All right. So as I've mentioned for the last few meetings here, we've been working with Michael Baker International and Peter's in the call today from their team to work on a 2 or 3 page pamphlet just to bring everybody up to speed on what we've done as an organization. Let me get that out of the way. What we've done as an organization over the last really 4 or 5 years regarding Route 65, and just to pick up and start with a strategy that everyone's on board with, right? We want to take some sort of 2 or 3 page pamphlets, all 15 towns, and make sure everyone's up to speed and on the same page as far as what our next steps are as an organization. So Peter and his team have been working on that document, and I think he wanted to just give a status update and show what they've been able to put together to this point. And if you have any questions for him, this would be the time. So with that being said, Peter, go ahead and take it away. I'll let screen sharing on the mission, so you should be good.
Perfect. Thank you, Patrick, and good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for having me this evening. So yeah, as you guys remember, Route 65, that was a big project, and thank you for everyone who helped us out coming up with those great ideas and concepts. And like Patrick was just saying, what we wanted to do is create a very simple 2-pager or 3-pager, but something that you could just very easily hand out, and it's very, very easy to understand, just overarching concept of the main ideas that came out of the workshop. And so that's the PDF. I don't know, Patrick, were you able to print out a copy for everybody? Okay.
Yeah, so I can pull it up.
Okay, great. So in this PDF, what we started with, and I think what we're trying to do is to start talking about what is it that we agreed on. And this is something we heard from a lot of residents, that 65 is not working for residents and businesses and stakeholders. It needs to be reimagined for a new generation of users, of course. And then through the public engagement, we know community leaders and residents are open for accepting potential trade-offs. And that's the one thing, the trade-off is very important because, we know that it means, let's lower traffic, but it means safer for our community, but also slower traffic and better for our commercial businesses, so those are the kind of trade-offs that we're talking about. And then the future development and design concerns can be broken down into the 3 main areas. And that's where we looked at safety, we looked at placemaking and connectivity. So those are the 3 main areas. And then what you find in this document is we start honing down just on the concept of safety, and then within safety, there are multiple ways of looking at it. There is the smart road infrastructure, the road lane infrastructure, or the actual roadway infrastructure, and then the pedestrian infrastructure. The smart road infrastructure, as you know, this is something that's happening more and more. where we're using technology in order to make our roads safer and easier, but also more inviting for people to use our road, our sidewalks and streets. And so like LED lighting is very important, signal timing is very important, and 5G enables mobility technology is also very important. Infrastructure, and this is a straight out of the report, looking at turn pockets, bus shelters, narrowing travel lanes. And infrastructure for pedestrians, what we're looking at is how is it that we're enhancing pedestrian crossings and innovative intersection, which basically means intersections that actually slow down cars and allow people to actually have a better, safer crossing. So that's what we looked at in terms of the safety. And then to continue on placemaking, what we said, in terms of 65, I mean, it really hits a lot of our wonderful communities. Most of them are very scenic and beautiful in nature, but 65 just basically feels like it's just a corridor. And so the idea is to rethink it so that it's more into the boulevard that everybody kept talking about during the workshop. How can it become a boulevard that slows down? And then the connectivity aspect, which is very important, is that 65 is a connector. But as a connector, how is it that it could actually balance? It could be very well balanced so that it's not only connecting cars, but it's also connecting the communities. And it itself is actually connected for the communities, not just for people going from downtown Pittsburgh all over to Beaver, but instead, they stop there. So these are kind of like the big topic, overarching topic of overall the whole report. And then when it comes to the next steps, we wanted to line up 4 different next steps. Number 1 is creating a comprehensive plan for Route 65 that kind of like brings all those community goals into place. Look for champions. Number 2, look for champions that can help us finding the budget, help us finding the ways that we can start looking at this comprehensive plan, and then start working with lots of partners that are going to help us to make this happen. And then finally is to create a working group of community representatives, to help us actually take the implementation going forward. So again, this, as you see right now, is just a very simple 2-pager. Yeah, as you print front and back, it's something you could easily hand out to somebody, and has overarching concept of the whole report of everything that we talked about. So this is what we have to present and to talk to you guys about this afternoon. And yeah, if you have any questions, please, by all means.
I have a question. This is Julie Barnes from Sewickley.
Hi, Julie.
Hi, Peter. It's nice to see you.
Yeah, it's nice to see you too.
I love this document. I think that this is exactly what we need to show like a new level of seriousness with this project, and to have something that's concise. It's been really important. I feel confident using, just from what I basically just saw that you went through, I feel confident talking about this with like my peers over at the Sewickley Borough Council. The one thing I think that I would have to get a little bit more detailed on is the narrowing of the travel lanes. I think people are not going to get that. I need to have a little bit more meat to give them when they ask me, like, what is that? Like, why wouldn't you widen the lane? People, it's just not counterintuitive.
Yeah, I had to mute myself because my daughter was coming back from ballet, and the dog, of course, thought that somebody was trying to steal the house, they robbed the house. So, yeah, and I think that again, this is a overarching concept that comes straight out of the report. So a lot of that backup, it's actually in the report. But Julie, if you think that maybe it's something that we need to probably create like a little cheat sheet or addendum to this, so that actually puts a little bit more meat into this concept, that's we could do that for sure.
I really don't think that that's a great idea, for the fact that trucks are already encroaching into the other lane. And if you narrow it, it's gonna be way worse, and you're gonna have more accidents.
Yeah, and again, this was a lot of the stuff that we talked about during the workshops, the multiple workshops that we had in the past. But the one thing that we talked about, the narrowing of the travel lanes, is because the travel lanes at the moment, in most cases, are 12 foot. The travel lanes in a highway are 12 feet. So what you need to think about is, and again, this is the trade-off, and this is the conversation. narrowing it to 11-foot travel lane is actually what is used throughout the whole entire country. And it just so happens that 65, as we found, it was way over designed and overbuilt. And so 11-foot travel lane, again, is the standard, and it's something that trucks know how to drive it. Of course, if you give them 13-foot travel lane, they will take the 13 feet and, but really 11-foot travel lane is the standard out there. And that's all the roads have been built to.
It just real quick, that's definitely one of the more contentious issues, and maybe that's all the more reason to take it out of this flyer. This flyer is just to bring awareness
Right.
to what has been done and to bring a concise idea of what needs to be done moving forward, to one, sort of offload a lot of the work off of our plate as an organization when working with others, right? Whether it's the SPC, whether it's PennDOT, whoever it might be, we're the glue that brings the 15 towns together,
Right,
but we're not going to be the glue that actually makes the implementation happen. So
exactly.
this flyer is, again, just to bring awareness, and people want to take a deeper dive and to see what that initial study did, over the last 4 years or so. You can do that.
I'm just,
200. Yeah.
people that had their mirrors.
Yeah, I'm totally with you, but that's
travel lanes.
that's the last thing I want this document to do, is sort of like focus everyone
That's
on
what
one
I'm
thing.
afraid- That's what I'm afraid
Yeah.
it could
Yeah.
happen, because it's so counterintuitive to narrow the lanes. I mean, it's a cohesive plan. It's a comprehensive, is the word I'm looking for. It's a comprehensive plan that slows traffic. So that's one of the aspects that causes the traffic calming. When you also put a median in between the directions, you're calming traffic. It's a whole comprehensive plan that will do it. And I'm afraid that if that one detail is put in there, that people will get fixated on
Yep.
it and might think it's a bad idea.
Peter, you got it, right? Marching orders. Let's go ahead and get rid of it.
Yep, got it.
But
Yeah,
I don't think that that's gonna be the greatest thing.
I think the discussion came up because when this was going on, autonomous vehicles in Pittsburgh were a very big discussion. And the word from PennDOT and the engineers was autonomous vehicles don't need as much room as vehicles drive by people, because they know where to stay. So that's where the thought process comes. You could actually narrow the lanes, the more autonomous vehicles you have. Now, we still have a way to get there, and by the time this happens, it might be that way, that far down the road. But if I remember right, Peter, I think that was the crux of the discussion, was as more and more autonomous vehicles get on the road, we're not gonna need as wide the roads.
Yeah, that is true. That is something obviously that was talked a lot about during the workshop. But I think, autonomous vehicles, I think we're still looking at 10, 15 years down the road, for them to be deployed to that level, that are gonna make that much difference. But I think right now again, for this conversation, it's more about taking it down to like a standard that is used in the roadway designs throughout the country. But I think going back to Patrick's point, I think a lot of these things are idea, big concept, and kind of like kit parts that we design with everybody involved. And all of these things still have to go through the rigorous testing, through engineering, through, PennDOT, everything has to be approved. So, I think that right now, what the call of arm is almost like, let's rethink of 65 and how to make it safer in general, So I think the little bits, the more details are gonna still be, still have to be worked on.
mhm.
And Peter and I and whoever else would be interested in working with us, we will be working to wrap this up and hopefully have the final two, front and back pamphlet done by maybe next month or at the latest November. That way, we can start to distribute this and really start to talk as an organization and talk with our member communities. Okay, what do you guys want? I mean, it doesn't matter what we want. It matters what our 15 towns want, right? And now we're going to have a document to start those talking points and see, is this where they want us to go? And if so, here's a starting point. And if not, okay, well, we try. All right. So that's really the goal of this, and we'll see where it goes.
We definitely need turning lanes, definitely.
Yeah, that's very important.
Any other questions for Peter before we move on?
I just want to say, I think it's an exciting development. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
All right. Thanks, Peter. Enjoy
Great.
the rest of your evening.
Thanks so much. Take care, folks. Nice seeing everyone. Bye.
Good night.
Thank you.
Good night.
All right, so we'll move on to item number 9 on our agenda is the CDBG status report.
Okay, so quite a bit to report on this front, so. There's 3 cycles now, so CD 48 is really 2 years ago. All of those projects were finally put out to bid because we finally got the contract from the county, so there's 2 different waves. 3 of those 4 projects have been awarded and should be starting any week now. And 1 project, we're still waiting for the final green light for it to get awarded. Those projects are listed here, but excited that there's some movement, right? So we did apply for an extension. So basically, instead of having 1 cycle over the next year, we're gonna have 2. So CD 49 that you see here and CD 48 are gonna be kind of commingled into 1. Still no news on the 49 contract, though. We're in the same boat we were with 48. So I would almost bet my bottom dollar that we'll be in the same spot with CD year 49 that we're in 48 now. We can always hope that maybe things at the county move a little faster.
What is the drag on that?
I wish I could even make an excuse for them. I don't know at this point. First, it was turnover. They had a lot of turnover, especially when people started changing jobs, working remotely. They found other opportunities that were more lucrative than working for Allegheny County Economic Development. Well, to my knowledge, the staffing issue is no longer the issue. It's just extraordinarily slow and bureaucratic, and I think a lot of it has to do with the turnover at the top, right? So there's a new county manager. We're gonna have a new county executive, no matter what, in 3 or 4 months. Whoever wins that is gonna bring their new team in. So I think the ground troops that were the problem 6 months ago, they didn't have, are not the problem. It's a lot of the attorneys and final person to sign off on a contract or a agreement. So we'll sign off on these things and it'll be 3 or 4 weeks before we get a copy of it. So I wish I had better news on that front. The good news is what should have been done last year is now in front of us. So part 3, so CD 50, the pre-applications for that cycle were due last Friday. We got 10 projects. So I'll run through those real quick just to make sure everyone's aware. So Avalon Borough, they're applying for a demolition at 525 Spruce Run Road. Edgeworth Municipal Authority looking to do a water line replacement project and a phased-in approach, looking for $327,000 there. Leet Township, ADA sidewalk project, looking to continue what they've done in the Fair Oaks neighborhood. Sewickley Borough, ADA sidewalk project as well. This would be the 3rd crack at the ADA sidewalks for Sewickley to just build upon what they've been working towards. Edgeworth Borough is looking to do an ADA parking project outside of their municipal building. Leetsdale Borough has 3 projects. We have a demolition at 175 and Beaver Street and Nandy Ohio River Boulevard. We have a Henley Park ADA parking project phase 2. So this would continue some of the work that they've already done in Henley Park. And a basketball project court renovation for Henley and Colemeyer Park in Leetsdale as well. Bellevue is looking to continue on with a Bain Park retaining wall project. This is a project that was about 2 years old. They're looking to finish the rest of the wall restoration. And then Emsworth Borough is looking for an ADA sidewalk ramp replacement project too. So I'm really happy with the turnout with applications. This is by far the most we've had and the most diversity in communities that we've had in my tenure here over the last 3 years. So again, we're starting to build that culture of everyone knows, okay, it's September, we're gonna apply for CDBG and GEDTF. We're gonna tackle the alphabet soup of grant opportunities. So thank you all. Thank you for your teams for working with us. We should know what projects get awarded through that cycle somewhere in the April or May timeframe next year. The next step is to finalize. These are just pre-applications. There's a couple arbitrary steps we need to do to get these finalized in November. But the big first step is done. So thank you for all your teams for helping out with that. Any questions on the CDBG? Great.
Okay, then we'll move on to item 10, Executive Director's Report.
To be honest, the only thing I would highlight. So Allegheny County is looking to update their comprehensive plan. So we have the survey that they asked a lot of our communities, and I sent this out to our managers and secretaries email chain, and I might have sent it out to you guys too. Just the county is looking for survey responses on what residents are looking for. And this is more from the staff and elected officials point of view, not residents, right?
Okay.
So anyone that had a chance to take a look at that, I'd be curious of your feedback, but that survey is on our website, and I did send it out in an email group. Other than that, we're gonna touch base on the other things in the report later on.
Okay. Then let's move on to, item 11, new business. Our first is a discussion of the Triborough Emergency Preparedness Group.
Okay, so I'm gonna ask for some help from Amy for this, but just to kind of bring everyone up to speed. There's been a meeting of Glen Osborne, Glenfield, and Hayesville, really emanating from the railroad blockages, about a year ago. And that sort of evolved into an emergency preparedness group and a couple other topics. But Amy, do you want to go ahead and take it away from there, just to sort of bring everyone up to speed on what's being asked here?
Sure. I'll do my best at least. So yes, definitely started with the recent railroad emergencies that we've had in our local area, specifically in Ohio, and feeling that since several of our communities have residents that live across the railroad tracks with one way in and one way out, or residents that live directly along the railroad tracks. So we, Glen Osborne, Hayesville, and Glenfield sort of got together with the idea that we are the most directly impacted by that railroad traffic. And I will say overall, we've gone from the big picture ideas of applying for grants that might get us an overpass or maybe a boat to be able to evacuate residents, to smaller ideas about how we would be able to respond in an emergency situation with very simple things like ramps over the railroad, or something that allows residents to get out quickly if we came to that. But I think overall, we've reached a point where we have decided jointly that we probably need to take a step back and make sure that our emergency response coordination is aligned. So meaning that that we have a good list of who those people are we would reach out to, who our key contact points are, defining what type of situations would require us to reach out, and then what resources that we have available. Because I think we sort of discovered in this process that all three of our communities, we have some work to do in terms of just basic emergency response. Our plans could be a little more robust than they currently are. So we're gonna, I think, take a step back and kind of focus on that. And make sure, again, that we understand what our resources are, we understand who our contact people are, and kind of do the basics before we get into the deciding that that's the worst case scenario that we would be dealing with. So hopefully that kind of summarizes where we're at.
Yeah, thank you, Amy. And just kind of, the QVCOG did participate in meetings. We weren't the facilitators. We just attended and sort of helped out how we could. From what I understand, and then Barbara's not here to sort of supplement that, but that committee, as Amy said, sort of is taking a step back. And the idea is, and Amy, correct me if I'm off course here, but the idea would be to sort of formalize a committee within the QVCOG for these three towns, to sort of help them however we can. They would meet in the committee forum, and if there's grant opportunities or just structural help that we can give them to help facilitate discussions with the county or with railroad corporations, or whatever the case might be, we would be able to help under the umbrella of the QVCOG in a more formal way. So is that sort of the right idea, Amy, or?
Yes, that's spot on. Yes, and certainly not, I mean, we welcome everybody to that conversation. It is, in some ways, I mean, we feel because of that, direct railroad presence, but we know it is an issue, emergency planning in general, an issue that affects all of us immensely. So certainly not meant to be exclusionary, but just with the starting point of, that those communities directly along the railroad tracks.
Hey, Amy, do you have to have an emergency management coordinator?
Do we have one?
Yeah,
Yes, we have one.
okay. Who is it?
Amanda, she is my alternate on COG, so she.
Thank you.
Yeah, but that's, I mean, that's part of it, right? I mean, we should all know who each other's emergency coordinators are. We should know, when, if something happens, like we have something happen at the Hayesville area of the tracks to be able to communicate that to our neighbors so that we're not living in a bubble. Like the whole point of what we're doing here is to have those contacts. So it's as simple as if I know it and it impacts all of our neighbors, then we should be able to communicate that and have those direct means of communication. And I mean, at the moment, we have the plans, we have the EMC, but it's not quite as much of a living plan as it should be.
And your big thing is, if you have a disaster and the train blocks the exit.
Oh yeah, it's the only way for those
SOL.
residents. Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, we did discover in those conversations that depending on where the train is blocking, there are middle lanes that go all the way down to Glenfield. So that could be an option, or middle lanes that go all the way down to the Coast Guard. But again, those are the kind of conversations that we need to formally have as part of
Yep, and you have to formally get approved, yes.
Yep.
So Amy, is it your intention then, is it the intention of your current committee to just reform under the COG, or are you looking for members to join your committee?
I think the immediate intention, excuse me, is to reform under COG. I feel like with having sort of different leaderships in the role, we haven't been as focused as we need to be. So that is part of, I think, Barbara's intent, and I don't want to speak for her, but I think that's part of why she talked to Patrick about this, to make sure that we, we're very intentional about how we're spending our time, how we're spending our energy. But I mean, to me, it's an impact for all of us. So I mean, I think we need to figure out first what we're doing, what our mission is in a clearly defined way. But I think it has to be a conversation for all of us eventually. Yeah, and I will say, Swickley's emergency management coordinator is amazing and has already reached out, and we've had a lot of conversations about ways that we can coordinate. So we're immensely grateful for that, and I look forward to working with him for sure.
Does anyone want to make a motion to formalize the committee?
Probably not allowed to make the motion, am I?
Yeah, we got a first.
Okay, is there any questions or discussion before we vote? All right, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay, motion passes.
Very good.
Good idea.
Thank you.
All right.
Okay, let's move on to section 11B. Consideration of a resolution establishing 2024 schedule of dues.
Okay, so every year we have to pass a resolution just establishing the dues for the next year. As we did this past year, I'm proposing to keep the dues exactly the same. No change in how it's organized, status quo. So in the packet and then presented on the screen is our proposed dues rate 2024.
Okay.
Motion to approve.
Okay.
Second.
Okay, there's a motion to approve the resolution establishing the 2024 schedule of dues. Any questions or comments? Okay, all those in favor, please say aye. 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 Okay, motion passes. Moving on to section 11C, approval of the 2024 budget.
So next step, just wanted to go ahead and discuss the budget. Last month, we sort of went over it in preliminary form. Not a lot of feedback, so I kept everything basically the same with just updated numbers in the packet. I did meet with Barbara, and I did meet with John, our treasurer, who's also on the call tonight. Two separate meetings, two separate calls. We tried to form a budget committee, but everyone's schedule was just kind of all over the place. So I did have those two calls with those two. I just wanted to go over some of the highlights here. So I'll just kind of read through the bullet points here, and then I'll have John comment if he would. So by using the current available data, 2023 Regional Asset District, the RAD revenue collections are continuing to rise at a rate similar to our previous last 2 years, basically. So it's a huge chunk of the projections here, and we get the data every month, and just calculating where we should be, we're projecting about $20,000 in collections that would be transferred to our savings account. And out of that, 30% goes to the general fund, and 20,000 of that would go towards our capital fund there. So everything's tracking to basically be exactly where we were last year, based on the inflation rates. That's my guess is why it's a portion of the sales tax, right? So every county, except for Allegheny and Philadelphia, there's an extra percent. And a portion of that goes to every community, and then a portion of the increase year over year goes towards intergovernmental collaboration. So that's where these calculations come from. And it's been very generous to the municipalities and our budget as well since basically 2021. 2023, regarding the recycling, we saw our largest award through the Act 101 Section 904 Recycling Performance Grant. I am anticipating that to continue. So we're estimating $25,000 in an award. The residential portion of that goes to our communities, and every year I'm anticipating that just keeps increasing. A big chunk of that goes to our recycling fund, our joint recycling fund. And a lot of that's the commercial data that we're able to get throughout all of our communities. So every year we get a little more efficient and a little more response rate from our commercial vendors, our haulers, and our businesses. So as long as that continues to grow, our award continues to grow as well. So 14 out of our 15 towns are contributors to that. And I think we've seen great progress on that front. So project management, this is sort of what we were talking about earlier in the meeting with the county. So we had 2 outstanding payments for administering CDBG forever and never. We finally got those in our accounts. Now, there was a pretty big drop from previous administration to where we are now with those CDBG administrative functions. One, there's only one of me, there used to be 2. So there's a little less to go after, just because there's less staff and less money being spent as an organization. So I'm anticipating with 2 cycles being administered in 1 cycle, basically, that we're going to spend a little more time than we did last year and the previous year on CDBG, and we got more applications. So I think it's appropriate to budget a little higher than what we've received over the last 2 years. So $26,000 is basically per year what we got the last 2 years. Previously to that was around 45,000. I'm anticipating 35 in our budget this coming cycle. So a little more, just because we're spending more time, more money. No growth is being budgeted for our service fee revenue stream. This is our zoning code enforcement program. Our zoning technical assistance program and our code enforcement program. Right now, only the zoning program is being administered by Leet Township. We have a couple quotes out there, one in Aleppo for that program and for the code enforcement program too. Just because nothing's set in stone, I don't want to budget any more than what we have currently. So we're going to keep that the same. If we're able to secure more agreements, great, but I don't want to anticipate that just because right now we don't have it. So also our 5-year waste and recycling contract includes a franchise fee that's $10,416. That'll hit our accounts every quarter, and that'll happen next year and the next 2 years after that. General operating costs are expected to remain near current levels. However, the office supplies line item in the budget has been increased to allow for the procurement of a new laptop. This one's running on 3 years. It's how we run the whole organization, basically. Battery life's starting to go, performance is starting to go. So I wanted to budget for replacement of this unit. Everything else for office equipment, bills, status quo. Payroll, we're anticipating a 3.5% increase for administrative payroll. That includes my salary and the projections for an intern, should we get one, through the local government academy intern program. Last year we didn't apply. I was actually put on the board for LGA last year. I didn't think it was a great idea to throw my name in the ring for an intern. So next year, we'll give it a go. If we have a project that's worthwhile and you guys agree with it. But you know, everything personnel wise is going to remain the same. Let's see here. And to summarize, the proposed budget allows for the continued growth of the QVCOG services and programming while remaining conservative towards the overall expenditures of the organization. A substantial portion of anticipated revenues, about $25,000, are slated to be transferred into the capital fund through the RAD program and through the recycling program. It's the opinion of the executive director, after convening with the board president and board treasurer, that the proposed budget accurately reflects the QVCOG's ability to provide a high level of service to each one of its 15-member communities and their residents for the 2024 fiscal year and beyond. And I think John's on the call. He's our organization's treasurer. John, did you have any thoughts, comments, feedback on our discussion or the budget?
No, I reviewed the budget with Patrick. He came to the office. We spent about an hour going through each of the line items. I had a few questions for him. I do wish that future budgets would show a projection for the end of the year so that we could compare. It's hard to look at where we are now compared to the budget and compared to next year if we don't know where we think we'll spend some money in the future. But after talking through it all with him, I think everything was in line, and I feel that he's done a great job getting some money into the bank accounts here and working as a one-man office. So I don't have any issues with it.
Okay. Any other questions, comments, or discussion?
Thank you, John.
Oh, no problem. No problem. And if we're at the point where we need a motion to approve the 2024 budget, I would like to make that motion.
Okay, I think we are at that point. Okay, we have a motion and a second, so if you have any other questions or comments, please raise them now. Okay, all those in favor of approving the 2024 budget, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay, motion passes. Thank you, Patrick.
Thank you. All right.
All right, moving on to item 11D, approval of concurring resolutions for the 2023 GED TF program. This is the gaming.
Yep. So, you know, this is an exciting time, lots of money being requested here, and hopefully we're able to bring in lots of money. So again, you know, last year with CDBG, we started to see some growth. This year, we shadowed that. This year with GEDTF, we really knocked it out of the park, 13 applications, right? So this is going to be really fun for the next 2 days, getting these in the pipeline. But I'm happy to see it. You know, that's again, we're building that culture with all of our members, right? And even if you didn't apply, hopefully everyone is starting to get familiar with the process and getting comfortable thinking about projects for the coming years. So like I said, 13 applications. We'll run over them real quick. One of the components of the application is a concurring resolution that just outlines the project name and the requested amount. So first up, we got Glenn Osborne looking to do a sanitary sewer line project, just over $220,000. Edgeworth Municipal Authority is looking to do a valve replacement project. In Leet Township, looking for $220,000. Sewickley Heights, is working on a road improvement project in one of the borough parks, looking for $380,000. Hayesville Borough, looking to do a bridge and road repair project, $200,000 requested. This is an interesting one. The Fern Hollow Nature Center is doing a building addition, and they're one of the organizations in our footprint that reached out to see if they can get some help writing the application. Out on the process with them. So they're looking for $300,000 for that building addition. Bellevue Borough's got two projects. One's going to be an ADA restroom project, just a tick under $250,000. Next one's their Memorial Park Playground Improvement Project, $225,000. Emsworth has two applications, one for Marinick Park for the LED light restoration, just changing their lights over from those, old school light bulbs to LEDs, looking for $250,000 for that. Emsworth also has a sanitary sewer project, $205,000. Kilbuck's got a sanitary sewer project, just a tick below $200,000. And Leedsdale has three projects, one for a boat launch, one for Henley Park, and one for the Washington Street Alignment Project, all around $200,000 for the exact amounts are in the resolutions here. Like I said, it's more or less just a procedural motion. what I ask from those communities is they pass it on their own. We get a copy of it, kind of formalizing that they want us to do this. And then we submit the formal one, which we would approve tonight hypothetically. So again, really happy with the turnout there. And over the next 48 hours, I'll be jamming these through the county application portal and then moving on to the next thing. Right? So
Mhm. All right, so we're looking for a motion to approve all of the concurring resolutions to submit all of these applications that Patrick just described.
I'll make the motion.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any questions or comments?
Yeah, I have one on for Patrick, the Marinick Field lights, with the $250,000. We also included a sidewalk repair with that, did that,
yeah,
because it was 336,000.
for the total award.
Yeah, for
Yeah.
the total, so that. I'd rather get the lights done than the walk. If we have a better chance of getting the lights, I'm fine dropping the walk, but I'm not sure. Seeing the cost estimate and the way the engineer writes it up, just to strip it apart, I'm not sure.
Yeah. And to your point there, the requested amount isn't necessarily what you get awarded. No, and there's no guarantee, right? This is what we're applying for. But what we saw last year, a couple projects, maybe got awarded a slight bit less than what they requested. So either the project scope would just get retracted a little bit when it gets put out to bid, or the local match goes up for the towns if they want to keep, that project scope the same. So we'll see what we get. This is only the second or third year of this program. It was sort of tweaked over the years, and this is by far the most we've ever applied for. So
Is there a match to this?
there's no match requirement. Now, in your application, if there's a 20-30% match,
understand
it
that.
doesn't hurt.
So will you be putting in our whole amount for 332 then?
No, just whatever you're requesting. I think you guys have a 25% match that Denny put towards,
That was only on the sanitary.
maybe in the
sewer.
sanitary sewer,
That
yeah.
was through Alcosan to grow green. thing,
Yeah.
But on the lights, there wasn't a match that. I know his whole pricing was like 336. I didn't send it to Kathy.
I'd have to take a look at it. Yeah, to be honest, my brain's kind of scrambled with that the last 2 days. So everyone's been calling, asking questions. So I'll have to double check that for
I
you
just
guys.
like to get it.
Yeah,
You put all this work into it.
Yeah.
I really appreciate you've stayed in great contact with me and the engineer and everybody else.
yeah.
I'm fine putting in for the whole lot, and I'm fine pulling back. We just really like to do the lighting above anything else.
Yeah, I'll shoot you an email tomorrow and just verify whatever is in the application. And if you guys want to tweak it, we can do that.
It's just, the borough approved up to $500,000, because we had no idea where this number was gonna come in at.
Yeah,
At the council meeting, so, but then the estimate came out yesterday, and for both projects, it was 336. So I just wanna make sure we get the right,
yep. Yeah, I'll touch base tomorrow on that.
okay.
So
thank
we
you.
can make that, we can still stick with our same motion,
Yeah.
even if that number changes, okay? All right, any other questions or comments? Okay, all those in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay, motion passes. All right, moving on to item 11E, annual dinner public service recognition nominee.
Okay, so at our annual dinner, which I wanted to touch base last, kind of jumping over the hurdles last week with CDBG, this week's GEDTF, and next week focus is going to be on the dinner. But a lot of the details are in stone for the dinner. But a component that we've had the last 2 years is a recognition of a public servant. Could be from any one of our 15 towns, and some years we've had multiple nominations. This year we have a nomination for Diane Bierling from Glen Osborne Borough. I was told that she might be retiring at the end of this year, and she served that community for many years and always does it with a smile on her face. Barbara Carrier, our board president and the mayor of Glen Osborne, has nominated Diane to have that award this year. So if you guys are in agreement, that's who we'll recognize.
Okay, so I guess we're looking for a motion to accept the nomination of Diane Bierling. Okay. Second?
Second.
A second.
Really good at this, I can tell you.
All right.
All right, any questions or comments? All right, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Opposed? Okay, motion passes.
Perfect. And just real quick on the dinner, last week I got the call to arms to just get everyone registered and aware of the event. Just to kind of highlight, it's gonna be October 5th at the Edgeworth Club. Hospitality hour starts at 6 p.m. Have the menu here on the right-hand side of the flyer. I'm not gonna go over it, but feel free to take a look. We do have a keynote speaker, Tom Baker. He used to be a county council person for 7 out of our 15 communities for about a decade. He now works for North Hills Community Outreach as their executive director. I had a chance to meet with him over Zoom, and I offered him the opportunity to serve as the keynote speaker, and he graciously accepted that opportunity. So he'll be our speaker. We'll be honoring Diane, and we're also having all of our raffle proceeds are going to go towards Animal Friends of Pittsburgh. So again, another local organization that does great work. So it's shaped up to be a great event. Sponsorships went out, and it blows my mind how fast people are willing to give us sponsorship money. I'm not going to complain. It's great to see. Now the tough part is getting people to show up to the event. So I'm asking everyone on the call today and everyone in person today, please, extend the invitation. I know a couple people here have already registered for the event, but please extend the invitation to your other fellow elected officials, staff, anybody at all. It's a great event. I think it's going to be a great night, and the food and service is always great at the Edgeworth Club. I'd love to see a great turnout. It's everyone that goes to these events seems to have a good time. So hoping to set a new record with the attendance, but right now the attendance is a little slow on the uptick. So hoping to really get people aware of the event. So anything you guys can do is appreciated on that front.
All right. Item number 12 is old business, no old business. So we'll go to concerns by delegates.
In the effort of time, does anybody have anything they wanted to bring to the group's attention?
This is Julie Barnes from Sewickley. I just would like to acknowledge and thank Glen Osborne Council for coming to us with the idea to put in a stop sign at Boundary and Beaver Street, which is the border of our municipalities. And there's a blind curve there, and it's a highly traveled pedestrian area for children who are biking and walking home from school. And there are a lot of near misses there. And anyways, the two councils worked together to get it done. The stop sign is in, it creates a 4-way stop. And we've been getting a lot of positive feedback from residents with a heartfelt thanks for the safety improvement there. So thank you, Glen Osborne.
Any other thoughts or comments before we close up shop? Anyone on Zoom?
Nope, nothing for me.
All right, great.
Motion to adjourn.
Okay, all those in favor? Aye.
All right, thank you, everybody. That was pretty efficient. 15 minutes. We got a lot done. Thank you all. And hopefully I'll see a lot of you at the dinner. And if not, we'll see you in October for our next meeting.
Sounds great. Good night, everybody.
We'll see you. Bye-bye.